All right, I got asked a question in an email wanting to know how the eating disorder affected mine and my husband's relationship. It's a very good question. So whether it's a boyfriend, a husband, maybe it's even just like a really close, good friend, depending on what stage of life you're in, whether you're married or not. I'm sure there's someone that you're really close to that you've seen the eating disorder most likely negatively impact your relationship. So I kind of wanted to touch on this a little bit. I have a little bit in other videos, but it's a really hard one. It's a sensitive topic because everybody's significant other, everybody's person that they're really close to is going to respond differently to your eating disorder. So sometimes we get really, really supportive loved ones who will do anything to try to help, almost to a fault where they become enabling and they become your safe person that you can perhaps, plan to eat all your meals with because you know that they're safe and that they support you, but they also don't fully understand eating disorders, and so you can kind of get away with a lot still with them. Other people have loved ones who are not supportive and have very very low tolerance for anything to do with eating disorder. So there's huge varying degrees of understanding and or willingness to understand. Even being willing, though, sometimes I think like my husband was willing to try to understand eating disorders, and he can read books about it and I can express to him kind of what goes on in my head, but there's just nothing like actually living with one. So as much as he tried to understand it, there were still some or a lot of things that he just couldn't understand no matter how much he tried. So the problem with me relying on him, particularly and especially for food support, for meal support, for keeping me accountable to follow through with certain things, was that he didn't fully understand. So I could get away with murder still, as much as he was trying to help me, which puts quite a strain on a relationship because they're trying to do their best to help you and they think they're helping you, yet nothing's changing because you're still totally acting out on your eating disorder. So what's the solution to this problem is, and you may not want to hear this because it kind of falls on you, but it means you need to get really honest with yourself and be accountable for your own actions. You need to be accountable for when your husband says, hey, why don't you have this, or why don't you have this for a snack? And you know it's a safe snack, or you know it's something that would be easier than what you're really craving. Say, actually, what I really want, what I know I need to have is that brownie. Or if they, think you're eating a lot because it looks like maybe 3 times the amount you're eating before your recovery. Wow, good for you. You're eating so much more. That's awesome. And you know deep down inside, you could have had 10 times that amount. You see how that could enable you to kind of stay stagnant and to be like, well, yeah, he thinks I'm eating more. He says I'm doing better. But really, only you know the truth. Only you know if you're really giving into the eating disorder or if you're really choosing recovery and allowing yourself full permission to eat whatever it is that you want. A huge thing I ask my clients, and I have a lot that have struggled with this or are struggling with this in a relationship where it's really putting a huge strain on their marriage or living with someone. And I ask them a really big red flag to know if you are being completely honest with yourself and if you are really truly committed to recovering or if you're just kind of fooling yourself and others, is do you need to be sneaky? Do you get excited when that person, isn't around so that you can do your behaviors without any questions? Or are you so reliant or dependent on this person that when they are around, you feel like, okay, now I know I'm not going to be sneaky. I'm going to do what I know I need to do. But when they're not around, I get anxious when they're not around because I know I go right back to my behaviors. So the sneaky, I want that to be like a keyword. Where are you finding that you're still being sneaky? And why do you get a little bit of excitement inside of you when you get away with that sneakiness? That is the eating disorder. That is what fuels someone to continue to go on and on and on, doing the same things every day because they're getting away with it. the only person that's going to catch you from that. Because even if your husband or someone points it out, what are you going to do? You're just going to get more sneaky, right? You're just going to figure out a way to be sneakier. The only way to stop that is to be honest with yourself. Why am I doing this behavior? Why am I acting that way? Why do I feel the need to hide these things? Okay, and that's a hard conversation to have with yourself, because then you have to be accountable, right? You can't lean on someone and expect them to call you out on your stuff. That puts a restraint on a marriage. Initially, at the beginning of our marriage, my eating disorder, I was doing decent, kind of okay. Sorry, my mouth gets really dry. I was doing okay when I met Zach, my husband, and after we got married, quickly went into a pretty fast relapse. I was never fully recovered by any means, but doing better when we got married. And soon after we got married, wow. So being married is a huge stressor. Even if it's an exciting, fun thing, it's like a huge change of pace. For us, is a very different way of living than we'd ever lived. We'd never lived with someone before. And so it's kind of like very overwhelming for me. What did I do? I ran right back to the only coping skill I knew, which was my eating disorder. What did my husband do? He freaked out, overreacted, became the food police, thought he was going to fix me, heal me. You know, if he just loved me enough, I would change. And what that did was kind of exasperated the problem, right? I was getting all this attention from him, but yet I wasn't doing anything to change because I had no tools. I didn't know how to recover at the time, and I was extremely stressed out. And the more he was trying to control me, what happens typically in an eating disorder when you're feeling like someone's trying to control you is, like I said, you dig deeper and you gain more control and you get sicker in your eating disorder. Sad to say, but that's typically the pattern that happens. So it was years and years and years before of me in and out of treatment centers after being married, before kids, and years and years and years of him having to realize that what he was doing wasn't helping. He had to let go. He had to take a step back and realize if she wants to recover, she's going to have to make that decision for herself. I'll love and support her as much as I can, but this is ultimately up to her. I can't change this. And that's something as a coach that I've had to now experience as well with clients. I will support, I will care for, I will encourage and cheer for these clients of mine, but ultimately it comes down to them, because I'm not living with them every day, right? And even if I was, I still couldn't change them. So it has to be that person who's trying to recover that is going to be the one that's doing the hard work. You can lean on people, absolutely. I leaned on him when I was in full recovery, my last attempt at recovery. I leaned on him like I never had before, but it's because I was asking for that help, and he was just there when he knew that I needed to just release a bunch of emotions or cry on his shoulder or whatever it was, but it was never about micromanaging what I was eating or, you know, that me being cold turkey on exercise. Like, we didn't talk about the specifics. It was just like when I went to him, he was there, and I basically took charge of my recovery. And so I think sometimes it just gets these relationships get too intertwined, and we lean too much on that person and expect them to fix it for us, and they can't fix it for us, and they want to be able to, but we never see a lot of progress. And then that just makes it a more significant strain on that relationship. And sadly, a lot of relationships, because the eating disorder is so strong, don't end up succeeding. They end up breaking apart. An eating disorder, I'm sure you've heard this many times, is like having another relationship. I mean, to me, it's like I was married to something else. My husband, yes, but also this other person. But unfortunately, this other thing or eating disorder came before my husband 99% of the time before I recovered. And so it's no wonder that they get impatient or they get frustrated or they feel like I can't go on anymore if you're not going to fix this. So we have to go kind of put we have to try to see what their perspective is and what they must be feeling, and not then feel, oh my gosh, I'm the worst person in the world. I can't put them through this. And oh my gosh, like, I can't believe that I can't just change this. No, just take control. Just decide right now that you're going to start changing things. And by doing that, they're going to start seeing that you're serious about your recovery. They're going to see that you're committed, and they'll be there for you to support you however they need to, but it won't be in an enabling way. It won't be a completely codependent way. So hopefully that answers that question. That's a hard topic to address, I feel like. Like I said, there's so many variables in everybody's relationship that you know, can change that. But generally, the main message I'm trying to get across is you need to be accountable to yourself. You can lean on people for support, but only you know if you're truly recovering or not. And if you're trying to be sneaky and hide things, ask yourself why and make changes. So hopefully this message resonates with some of you and can help you throughout your recovery.